Welcome to Conversations with Big Rich. This is an interview-style podcast. Those interviews are all involved in the off-road industry. Being involved, like all of my guests are, is a lifestyle, not just a job. I talk to competitive teams, racers, rock crawlers, business owners, employees, media, and private park owners, men and women who have found their way into this exciting and addictive lifestyle. We discuss their personal history, struggles, successes, and reboots. We dive into what drives them to stay active and off-road. We all hope to shed some light on how to find a path into this world we live and love and call off-road.
Whether you're crawling the Red Rocks of Moab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Have you seen 4Low magazine yet? 4Low magazine is a high-quality, well-written, four-wheel drive-focused magazine for the enthusiast market. If you still love the idea of a printed magazine, something to save and read at any time, 4Low is the magazine for you. 4Low cannot be found in stores, but you can have it delivered to your home or place of business. Visit 4lowmagazine.com to order your subscription today. All right, on today's episode of Conversations with Big Rich, we have Wyatt Brown and his wife, Christina. We are going to be talking about their life. Start with Wyatt and work into Christina and the family. They're the parents of Landen and Gunnar. We're going to talk about their family and their journey in off-road and how they've got to where they're at now with Landen driving Thunder Nation and with Gunnar getting the older buggy, Landen's first buggy, SubZero. So thank you guys for coming on board and spending some time with us and talking about your history and that of the kids.
Thank you, Rich.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
So let's jump right in and Wyatt, where were you born and raised?
All right. I was born in Claremore, Oklahoma in 1987 at the Claremore IHS Indian Hospital in Claremore. I was moved all over, primarily around the northeast side of Oklahoma. Spent a lot of time. I was homeschooled through third grade, or up into third grade. My mom homeschooled me. I went to Oolagaw Elementary School for about 6 months, and we transferred to Bartlesville, where I spent the remaining third, fourth, and fifth grade there. Then I transferred to Dewey Elementary School, went half through sixth. We transferred to Sperry, went sixth, seventh, and eighth. And my mom and dad, we moved around a lot because of jobs changing and whatnot. We lived on about a 10-acre farm there in Sperry. Mom and dad got divorced during my 8th grade year. So to me, I took it pretty hard. So I quit paying attention in school, didn't pay attention to really anything anymore other than just running off in the woods, shooting things with my shotgun, just, being a country boy, so to speak,
right
out there on the land. I failed my 8th grade year, so I had to redo that. But at that time, we transferred. I still lived with my mom. I transferred over to Claremore, so I redid 8th grade there. I did 8th and 9th grade at Claremore. And then about that time, I got, when I was living at the Sperry house, when Mom and Dad were still together, I remember running up and down the creek banks of Bird Creek, and I found in a little shed 1978 IT 175 Yamaha dirt bike. And I ran home, and it was just all it's all in a little shed there at this lady's house, and I had no business being, in her shed, but I seen the tire when I was running up and down the river, running up down the creek, and of course that spiked my interest. Here I am, 12, 13 years old, and wanted to know what that was. So Dad told me to go knock on the door. Next thing I know, I'm pushing it home for $150. So Dad got it running. I remember my 13th birthday. That was my present to my present. Dad got the old dirt bike running. I remember a whole bunch of people being at the house, but I didn't care. I didn't pay no attention because all I did was burn fuel. I rode and rode and rode all day long. That's what I just picked up loved doing. Well, from there, Mom and Dad got divorced just shortly after that, and so my dirt bike kept breaking. Of course, Dad wasn't there anymore at the house. He was living in West Tulsa now. So we moved with my mom, moved to Claremore. I did 8th grade again there, and I did 9th grade. Well, then Dad's like, hey, at that time I'm still riding dirt bikes. Dad got me a 1991 KX 125 because I was already past the skill level of the old 175. So now I'm riding this KX 125. Well, there's a track that opened up which is really, really crazy story. But the track that I grew up riding on is only half a mile from where I work now.
Wow. Okay.
It's just weird how things happen, but my shop I work for, Lighthouse Electric, is not even half a mile to a mile away from the track that I grew up riding dirt bikes on. So I wore out that 125. So Dad's like, hey, remember I'm still living with my mom. Dad's like, hey, let's get you a new one. He's seen how much I was trying. Of course, it was early 2000s, and everybody else is on brand new bikes, the best of everything, and here I am just struggling I'm getting the whole shot, and then I'm coming off the track completely drenched in sweat because I'm trying so hard. It's just I can't run with them. So right about that time, Dad had back surgery, and they messed up on his surgery, so he got a big settlement from them. And we went to Oklahoma City and bought a brand new, about a year old Yamaha YZ 250F. It was they just came out with the 254 strokes. I think that was the second year or something I got. And me and him went out to Appalachia Bay here in Oklahoma. I skipped school on a Friday, went out there and we rode all day long just to get used to the bike. We went back Saturday night for the races, and at that point, when we left the starting line, that's the last time I seen anybody. I took off and ran away from them. The same group of kids I raced, previous that week to, I couldn't even catch them, but now that I'm on this new bike, I took off and left the same group of kids.
Nice.
So that was when I decided I really, really, really want to start racing. So I'm still living with Mom. Well, I finished my 9th grade year. I transferred to West Tulsa, moved in with Dad. Now I'm going my sophomore year. We're riding dirt bikes every weekend. I'm playing football. I was always in athletics. I always played football, played baseball. I only wrestled one match, but I would mainly do wrestling with them just to stay in shape, stay in cardio during the winter.
Right.
And so I've always big into working out, so to speak, running. I hated running, but I needed to run so I can stay in shape to stay on the track. So I raced motocross all through high school. We met a big group of guys that were just kind of like your hangout group, so to speak, that loved riding dirt bikes. We'd always had a group of maybe 10, 15 guys, maybe 20 sometimes. We'd all go places, whether it was Keystone Dam, Appalachia Bay, didn't matter. We'd always ride together. Well, one of those guys, his dad owned an electric company right here in Tulsa, and asked me what I was doing after high school, and I said, really honestly, I haven't even thought about it. Literally every weekend we were somewhere, Texas, Arkansas, all over Oklahoma racing. So he's like, well, why don't you come be an electrician? You can still ride dirt bikes. And, if you get hurt, whatever. Just at least it's a trade. And I said, absolutely, I'll do that. And so so that's what I did. I got in the electrical trade. When I turned 16, my dad gave me a 1991 Toyota pickup, and that was my daily driver. Drove that thing for all over high school, even a few years afterwards. Well, when I really started liking rock crawling, there would be times, again in them early 2000s, that me, Dad, and my brother and my sister, we'd go spend a few, right around my birthday, June 22nd to July, whatever that week is, we'd spend a week up there at Cherokee State Park, right there at Grand Lake. They got baths, not baths, but shower house and everything there. So you sleep in a tent, you need a shower, you go to the shower, but we'd stay there for a full week. Well, I remember there was a rock crawling event down below the dam, and we sat there and watched it all day long. Had a blast, watching guys go through the cones, trying to figure out what it was. And I remember this, now that I'm thinking about it, there's one truck that really stuck out to me. No, actually, there's two. It was like a red blazer-looking thing, and the guy was pissed. He ran out of time or something or the other, and he came just to prove a point. He did the course or timed out or something, and then he come back around, got back in line, and just laid it on the floor and bounced through the whole thing. I remember that stuck out. That stuck out a lot. And there's another one. John Sumner had a Toyota pickup that looked like a bat. And so, of course, we had that Toyota pickup of Dad's, and so I was like, man, we ought to make that into one. It looked the same, it looked real cool, and so that's when I really liked off-roading. But we're also racing every weekend, and so that was primarily my goal, at that time. Well, I turned pro, so we were traveling all over, like I said, and to run on that level, you have to be in shape. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So there was 3 times I broke my leg back to back to back. I'd heal up, go out, break it again, practicing or racing or whatever. But it was almost, back to back to back. Luckily, at that time I was already out of high school. So now, luckily the company I was working for said, hey, I told you from the get-go you want to race, and you got to pay for your stuff somehow. So the last injury I had was my collarbone. At that point, I realized I'm tired of getting hurt, and I can't make a living, obviously, being hurt. No one's going to pay for my stuff. There ain't no way I can have fun and enjoy myself. And so that's when I hung up the dirt box. And around about that same time, before I got hung up the dirt box, I saved up enough money to get me an F-250, and a buddy of mine left his welder at the shop, or at Dad's place, and so I started cutting up that 91. I solid axle swapped it, twin transfer cased it, and that was my little rock crawler. So we'd go down below Grand all the time and go wheeling and just, have a blast, have a lot of fun.
Let's give Christina a chance. Christina, can you enlighten us on your upbringing? I learned a lot this last weekend hanging out with you guys. So
I was taken away when I was 4. I have 5 siblings. I had 2 other siblings, but they died of starvation and thrived. So I got taken away when I was 4. My amazing parents adopted me when I was 8. They adopted all 5 of us. So my mom adopted my first brother, my oldest brother, James, with her ex-husband. And then my dad, Bubba, adopted 6. So
okay.
We always went camping. I started working when I was 15. And from there, I don't know, it's just my life. I don't know. I can't remember all of it. Sorry, Rich.
That's all right. That's okay.
I played sports one time. I think I played basketball in my 7th, 8th grade year. I think my whole life was just trying to figure out who I was. So I met up Wyatt, and from there it's just been amazing.
Excellent. Excellent. And I have to give Bubba and your mom a lot of credit for doing, for taking you guys all in. That's quite amazing.
And it takes special people to do that for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So then Wyatt, after the Toyota, you've got that, and then you have the F-250. So you were able to build up the Toyota. What did you and you hung up the bikes, racing bikes. Where did you go from there?
All right. So one thing I want to touch on real quick. When I was in living in Bartlesville, I was in third grade. In fact, now it kind of reminds me that's where Landen's at now. Landen's fixing to go to fourth grade, so I was kind of the same age as him right now. But Dad had an old CJ5 with an AMC 360 with 33-inch tires that we would go and hunt out of. We would, me and Dad would go hunt out of. We would go run river bottoms. We'd get with a group of his buddies, go mud bogging all the time. And with the big motor in that little tub, I don't think there was one time that we ever got stuck. When he would light the tires up, that thing would almost come up out of the water and float. It was a lot of fun. And I remember helping him put the motor in. I remember wrenching with him. And then everything else just kind of turns into a kind of a haze. Like me and him always went fishing together. I mean, we did everything. And then everything seemed to get hectic. And everything else kind of just turns into a haze. I don't remember a whole lot other than just starting dirt bikes. When pushing that, like my memory kind of just fades away, and then it comes back when he gave me that check to take to that lady for $150 for that dirt bike, and then everything comes back into play. So now I just hung up my bikes. I cut my Toyota up. I'm starting to get into that. I just hung up my bikes. I've got my Toyota pickup, got it maxed out to what I think it needs. Then I need to. I'm wanting something else. So I sold all the bikes except for one, and I found an 01 Yamaha R1 crotch rocket. And I remember loading it up in the back of my truck, drove it all the way up there. And not too far, just about an hour away from the house, and unloaded my dirt bike out of the back of the truck, and I'm looking at this R1, and I've always wanted one. I've always wanted a rocket. Dad had them when I was a little kid. In fact, there's stories. I mean, I remember sitting on the tank of Dad's bike watching that speedometer cross 165.
Wow.
I mean, it's not the smartest of things to do, but I'm still here. He's still here.
You guys, that's been your life.
That's what happened. I remember holding on to him behind him, going so fast my right leg blew off, and I remember him reaching back, grabbing my leg, putting it back on the pegs, and he sold them 2 weeks after that. He had two of them. He had two ZX-10 Ninjas.
Okay.
And so when I brought that R1 home, he literally looked me in the eyes and said, "You are going to take what you do on the dirt to the street, and I'll never see you again." He cried right there, and he said, "You park it in the shop, and you do not come get it until you have insurance, full jacket, and a helmet." Well, of course, me being me, the very next day I had all that. So I pushed it out of the shop, and I think there was about a week or two that we didn't talk. Me and Dad didn't talk. He was that scared.
So can I ask this question?
What?
So did you even ask your dad, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to get this bike. What do you think?" Did you even talk to your dad before? Or did you?
I don't. I think I mentioned it, and then I wanted an R1 so bad. He was all against it, obviously, but I just did it. Well, I'm over 18, and of course, I'm gonna make. He's got to allow me to make dumb decisions. But thankfully, I had it. He was dead set on the money. I was splitting cars. I remember coming home from Broken Arrow after a trade school. I had, since I'm an electrician, the first company I worked for put me through this. It's called the Associated Builders and Contractors School. It was one night a week for 4 years. I remember coming home down I-44, and there was some chicks in a Mustang beside me, and we're cruising along. Well, they punched it, and so I rolled the throttle on, and here we are coming across the Arkansas River, and we're doing over 100, and so I back off, and I'm downshift once, and I just pinned it. Well, about that time, they're rolling pretty quick. I bet they're about 110 or so, and I'm coming up on them really fast. I backed off, and here I come. I'm going to scream by them. All of a sudden, I see brake lights, and I see a highway patrol officer sitting off to the right. And the Mustang lit the brake lights up, and I didn't. I just shifted again and just took off. I went on to the house and parked it and sold it 2 weeks later, or traded it 2 weeks later. I was doing 100-mile-an-hour wheelies down the highway. Like, Dad was not wrong at all. He was dead set right. I was going to be dead or in jail, one or the other.
But you came to that conclusion before you became an organ donor.
Correct. That changed everything. When I passed that highway patrol officer, I know I was doing over 100, at least 140, 150 miles an hour. I know I was. And especially I got off the highway, took the back roads all the way back to the apartment as quick as I could, threw it in the garage, and that's where it's at. So then, back when Craigslist was really popping, I found this, in fact, now it's a 76 K5 Blazer. The guy took all the shell off, had a full roll cage put on it, put a four-seater on it, still had the half-ton axles underneath it, 350, turbo 350, I think it was a 208 behind it. I picked it up. I traded the R1 for it, and at that time I still had my Toyota. Went and picked it up, got it home, and then realized that this is the direction I want to go. So I wish I still had it, but I stupidly sold that Toyota just to fund my next project. And so from there it went one-ton swaps to adding all kinds of other parts and, everything that goes all in line with that.
Right.
Shock, everything. And at that time, I'm living in Sapulpa. Now I don't work for that company I worked for that allowed me to race dirt bikes with them. I'm now working for another one. That's the company I'm working with now in Owasso. That's so strange. It's just only a half mile away from where I grew up riding dirt bikes. So I just thought that was kind of odd. But
is that track still there?
That track is still there. In fact, I had some buddies last night ask me if I wanted to take the boys over there and go riding today, since the weather's yesterday. I think the index was 110, and right now it's 80, right. 88. And so they were all wanting to go ride today, but we got now that baseball season's over. Baseball season ended yesterday. We had games every night this week. We had something to do. It's been nonstop running and gunning for a couple months now, and so we're doing housework today. Much needed housework.
Being an adult.
Yeah, we gotta do adult stuff today. It's not fun. I hate adulting. But so I had to put them off, which, I'm not gonna lie, I've got another bike here. The boys got bikes. We wanted to go ride, but we got stuff to do. So now I'm working for this company in Owasso, Lighthouse Electric, like I mentioned. Been with them for 12 years. I was working at a paper plant there in Bixby, running some power for something. I don't really remember, but me and the guys, we'd always go eat there in Bixby. We'd always find a restaurant and just go sit down and eat real quick and get back to work. Well, that's where I met Christina. She was working at this Scott's Hamburger joint there in Bixby. And her friend slipped me her number because, we went in there multiple times, and she's seen me multiple times. I've seen her multiple times, and we'd always just, hi, how are you, and that's pretty much the gist of it. Well, then, like I said, her friend slipped me her number.
So she made the first move.
Her friend did. Her friend made the first.
The friend got her number and made sure it was okay.
Well,
so I'm sure.
No. The friend actually.
She was my best friend. We worked together. So Scott's was more like a family. All of us felt like family together.
Right.
So her friend Tanya come up and said, "Hey, don't tell Christina I did this, but she really likes you, and here's her number." I'm like, okay.
Yep, that's okay.
And
so she had no idea. So when I texted her, she didn't, she knew who it was, but I don't think she.
I was like, Tanya, Wyatt just texted me. How in the heck did he get my number?
And so that's where that kicked off.
I would even do my hair, because you guys know I don't hardly do my hair. My hair's natural curly, so it's hardly down. And so I would actually fix my hair. Just if he was coming in that Monday or Wednesday, you actually came in, and I'd do my makeup. I don't ever do my makeup, and so yeah.
And of course, the day she would do that, I wouldn't come in.
Yeah.
So I'd always come in on the day she thought she looked the worst. But anyways, so we met. I texted her immediately after I got the number. I actually waited till I got off work. Then I texted her, and then we our first date. In fact, was in my buggy. She on our phone conversation and stuff, she told me she likes bow fishing. Well, that's another thing I did growing up below Grand. When we go spend weeks at a time, or week, long there camping, we'd take our bow fishing rigs, me, my brother, and my sister, and Dad, and we'd all go bow fish the pools below Grand. And so.
And I did four-wheeling with my best friend Mary. Mary's came to the last few Wee Rocks, but I used to go mudding with them and their four-wheelers and stuff out in the house, but I'd never been rock crawling, so it was a first for me.
Okay.
And so I'd talk her in, and I'd say, hey, let's go rock crawling. And she's like, well, I like boat. Somehow or the other, I'm like, you have a bow fishing setup? And she's like, no. So she borrowed a friend Mary's. And so, of course, I took mine. And we're down there, we're wheeling below Grand and having fun. And it's still, we're hoodie weather. And so I pull off in it's in fall, so I pull off in one of these, the pools. And I've got 44-inch tires, and so the water's about 2-3 inches from coming over the top of it. Well, I pull down the pool, and I stop, and she gets her bow fishing set up. I got mine, and we're standing on each front tire or whatever, and we both seen a fish. She shoots, I shoot, and only one of us hit it.
I did.
And that'd be her. So, of course, I put my bow down, and I had more fun watching her shoot fish than obviously I couldn't hit them, but
I always said because I beat him, but he says just because I like to watch you, so okay.
So
hey, it's a win-win.
Yeah, it is a win-win. So
it was a great time.
So that was our first date.
Now that's a good redneck first date.
Yeah, very, very.
Wheeling and bow fishing.
Not shopping or anything. I just rather be out. Yeah.
Be outdoors.
Right.
I think I shocked you by some part happened, and you needed your tools, and you were under, and I was like, okay, what tools do you need? And I was helping you. I think you were so shocked.
Oh yeah, so during our first date, I had a 3-length of front of my buggy at the time. Well, that old, them old Chevys are C-channel, so to speak. The frame rails are C-channel.
Right.
And it ripped the whole thing off, like just the panhard bar got ripped off when we went down a little climb. Well, I didn't notice it until I'm pulling into the campground up at Hogan's, and Russ looks at me and is like, "Hey, your front axle's sticking way off to the side." And I've MIG welded plenty of times, but I've never stick welded. And so. Anyways, here I am trying to, because that's the only machine he had, and I'm trying to stick weld this thing back together. We've got ratchet straps strung everywhere, and finally I was like, Russ, will you come over here? I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it. It was just frustrating. It was embarrassing to me, and it was a bad little combo. So I said, Russ, I'll buy you lunch if you just burn this in for me. So he did. He welded it in for me. And he's like, all right, y'all kids go play. So we went and got him lunch, brought it back, and here you go. And then anyways, that was our first date. So went from there, and then we bought our first house 6 months in. Bought our first house. We were together 6 months, but it was just one of those. Everything just felt so natural. Just our relationship. It was just, I don't know. Heck, we never been apart really. So bought our first house 6 months. Then we started. Then life got crazy. We started. I started breaking axle shafts with those 1-tons. So her and I found some rock wells after a buddy talked me into going that route down in South Austin. So one day after work,
it's got to be great when you have friends that are willing to talk you into spending more money and building something stronger.
Yeah. That is very true. That is very true. So we drove all the way down to Austin, Texas. We left somewhere around about 11 o'clock or so on a Friday night. This guy was closing up his off-road shop. I don't remember his name. I just remember it was in South Austin. And went down there, picked up the set for $600 plus a pile of other parts. We met him at his shop at 6:30 that morning. Saturday morning, we drove all the way back home. So we didn't stop to sleep or nothing. We just drove and came back. Then we started the axle swap. And then around about that time, it's got to be in, Landen was born in May of 2013. So right around in there, I still had, actually, hold on, back up a little bit. So I asked her to marry me at the 2012 John Sumner's Big Meat Run. And at that time, I still had the old school 350 in that truggy or whatever you want to call it, just a pile of tube was all it was. So when we moved in together, I got our first house, she switched professions. She went to be a phlebotomist there at St. Francis, drew patients' blood and whatnot. It was at the Big Meat Run. I had it all set up at 2012. We were at Little Blue State Park, had a bunch of all our friends there. She had to work, I think, half of the day or something. And she was bringing some more friends with her, but we had all had it all set up. I was going to ask her to marry me. Had her parents there, my dad there.
My parents didn't know.
Her parents didn't know, but her dad knew because I did the right thing. I asked her dad, I'm like, hey, can I have your permission? Of course, he was all in. She wasn't happy when she got there to Little Blue just because I was impatient, and I decided to drive across the water hole that turned out to be a heck of a lot deeper than I thought. And I was waiting in line for everybody else, but I got impatient and just like, I'm going to make my own line. Well, I sunk the thing.
Everybody else knew that the hole was deeper.
Yeah, everybody else knew.
So when I was at the hospital, I was like, there's no point in me coming. There's no point in me bringing, if we can't drive it, there's no reason. And they're like, no, our friend Sherry's like, I'm the only girl here. You got to come. Like, they were just trying, and now I know why.
So we got the buggy out and got it drug over there back off in the bushes off, where our campsite was. And I hopped in the truck, went to O'Reilly's there in Veneta. Went to O'Reilly's in Veneta. Spent about $500-600 in just oil changes and transmission fluid changes. And I sat there and I changed it. Would run it for a little bit. We blew all the water out of all the cylinders first. I mean, did everything you're supposed to do when you do something like idiotic as I did. And got all the chocolate milk and strawberry milk out of it, and
it was a good weekend.
It was a very good weekend after that. But
and you surprised her?
Yep, I surprised her. We got it running, and then of course everybody's standing around, and she was sitting beside her mom, and honestly, it just just the look on her face, I'll never forget it. But it was got her by complete shock. She had no idea. It was awesome.
I didn't.
And then the rest is history. Our lives started moving really good. Now back to Landen. So we got our first house together. We're living there in Liberty. We got so after I sunk the buggy, every seal, every part on that thing would not hold oil. It was leaking from everywhere, but it still ran. So at that time, we had some friends moving from one place to the next, and they had this old big bus, big motorhome, and they had just put a brand new long block 454 in it. Bought the motorhome from them, brought it home. Me and Bubba ripped all the stuff out of it, sold everything off of it that we could, scrapped it all completely, and all I had was down to the captain's chair, the steering wheel, and the fuel tank in the back and the motor up front. And the only thing out of the entire thing that I wanted was just the motor. It was a brand new 454 that had less than 1,000 miles on it. And here Christina comes out of the house, and it's on it was kind of a downhill driveway, gravel driveway. And I drilled a bunch of holes in the fuel tanks and popped the fuel pump out. And I'm draining gas into these 5-gallon buckets because we did a lot of clearing in the back of our little 2-acre property, and we had a big burn pile, stuck up. So I started pouring all that old gas on that burn pile. Well, here she comes out with Landen on her hip and said, hey, she seen me getting the plasma cutter out. She's like, I would not do that. And I'm like, it's fine. The fuel tank's way the back there. All I got to do is cut some brackets out of here, and then the motor's pretty much ready to come out. Just got to push it in the shop and get it out of there. She's like, okay, whatever. So she turns around and starts going back to the house. Well, I lit the arc on the plasma cutter, and sure enough, one arc jumped up, landed about halfway between here and the fuel tank. Well, I didn't know it, but there was in the grass, there was a stream of fuel that was running towards the shop. So, of course, the spark hits the grass and just took off, went into the 5-gallon bucket, up the stream, into the fuel tank, and just exploded. Just boom! Big old mushroom cloud came out of that thing. It was loud. It was it was exciting. We immediately
and no video.
Of course, I wish we would have had cameras at the time. It would have been a great one. Especially her be like, I told you so, like not even 5 minutes before it happened. Guess that's why they say women live longer than men.
Oh, yeah.
But, so that happened, and then...
it made us realize how long the fire department would take.
So, yeah, then being living out there in the rural community that we were at, realized how long the fire department took, because somebody called them. Christina ran Gunnar across the street, Landen across the street, and my neighbor come over, starts helping me put it out. Well, we're trying to use water, and gas is just traveling on top of the water, running right towards the shop. So I start panicking. We start everything we could to put it out. Well, then I seen a fire extinguisher right behind the seat that was still in the bus, what was left of it. And so luckily there was enough charge in that thing, it put the fire out. Well, it had to be at least 25, 30 minutes, and an old buddy of mine come driving down the road, and he worked for the fire department, and he said, no, they haven't even dispatched nothing. So living out there, I'm glad we were able to get it out, or it would have been, it would not have been very good at all. It would have been a bad deal. So we get all that put out, got the motor pulled out, got it put in the buggy. And right after that, now that Landen's here, right after that happened, once I got that project wrapped up, got the motor in the buggy, I also did a 203, 205 doubler right behind the Turbo 350, so now it's a lot heavier, especially with Rockwells and everything else. So I didn't build my own doubler, I put it together myself, so I'm still learning all the mechanics and how everything goes together. So now that Landen's here, I want to build him a stroller. So I built this little this little stroller you push, and you can steer it from behind, turns the front wheels. And first it had little electric fans on it, little LED lights on the front and rear, so it looked like a little, like a little vehicle, so to speak.
And he had to have fans because you know how Oklahoma weather's hot.
Yeah, we just experienced that, didn't we?
Yeah, we had a kid that was cool.
And so, in fact, it was June of 2013. In fact, it was June of 2013 when we took Landen. Of course, he's only a few months old, but we had a birthday party to go to at the zoo, and like, well, we're taking the baby stroller. Have to. So, took the baby stroller, had some friends of ours wrap it for me. In fact, the ones that had the bus that I got from them, had a graphics company. They wrapped it and called it the Extreme Daddy Stroller. So we go to the zoo. We push them all around the expo, all around the zoo and whatnot, go in and out of every building except for they would not allow me to take it into the monkey exhibit. And I asked the lady, why not? And she's like, trust me, you don't want to go down that road. I guess apparently monkeys will freak out and they'll just start chunking crap at you. That's what happened.
I grew up fairly close to the zoo in San Francisco, and one of our favorite things when we'd go to the zoo was to sit there near the monkey exhibits and watch them fling stuff at the tourists. People would come in and go, oh, look at the monkeys, and splat, it's like.
Right on the side of the head.
Yep. They were good shots, too.
I've got a lot of practice with everybody going in and out of them things all day. So yeah, we go through that. We built the stroller. We took that thing everywhere that there was some outdoor event or whatever. That thing was definitely an attention getter. So now I'm watching. Landen would sit on my lap for hours on end. We'd watch YouTube videos, rock crawling videos, rock bouncer videos. We'd watch hours on end because he was always around, riding in the buggy.
And at such a young age, he paid such attention to the screen and the noises, That's what shocked us. We didn't even think a baby that little would even pay attention.
Like his face when you turn on a video and a buggy was just getting after it.
Like
his face,
hanging out.
I mean, he had drool hanging out, just mouth forward.
So he had drool hanging out. He was taking after you then.
Right. I mean, he was fist pumping, like he was just like so into it. In fact, there's a video on my Facebook that once we did the big block swap, he was standing in the driver's seat. And I said, all right, buddy, let's start the buggy. And we started it up, and his face was just like, oh, yeah.
He pushed it and started
it. He's the one that pushed it and started it. But when it lit, like he was like, oh, yeah, just excited. And
I want to bring up a point where you were talking about noises. So I had loud pipes. I had an F-150 truck. That was my first truck, and I had loud exhaust pipes. And so that's what Landen heard for 9 months, too. Well, Landen was screaming one day, and we were about to leave, and so he started my truck to cool off, and Landen was quiet. He didn't cry again. And so I think the noises really did.
Relaxing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just that sound, that rumble, just relaxed him. And so that was his happy place. Well, now that we got the stroller, we got him one of these little Ranger UTV power wheels from Atwood's. And as soon as we brought it home, we unboxed it. Now Landen's, 2 years old or so. So we unboxed it, and immediately I didn't like the little plastic roll cage that was on it. So me and him took the unscrewed the roll cage, and he watched, But unscrewed the roll cage, and then I built him a little aftermarket one that where, it's not. He ain't gonna roll that thing, but it's gonna look cool when it's driving down a road or whatever.
Right.
So we built a little cage for it, and then he was getting stuck in the grass all the time. So I come up with a little idea. I took a bicycle tire, cut it in half, and I wrapped it around the plastic wheels in the back and just screwed it into the plastic wheels, and he never got stuck again. He can drive across the gravel, grass, mud, didn't matter. It didn't spin. It just grabbed and goes. In fact, there was one video, it's either on mine or hers, but he was in the driving through a mud hole in the back of the property, and he was going forward and back, forward and back, forward and back. And then the little razor deal died on him, and he looked back and was like, I stuck. And so at that point, we were still playing around, of course, watching YouTube videos and stuff. Well, I seen this little video of a little boy in a little single seat. I think it had narrowed Samurai axles, or it might have been just stock. I don't remember. But it was like a little Jeep-looking thing. And I thought it was the coolest. I thought it was super cool.
He's like, yes, I'm going to build Landen one.
So I was like, yeah, I've got to build Landen one. So I started sourcing parts, started gathering up all my parts. Well, then...
Axles was a year and a half. He was a year and a half when you bought those.
Yep. Well, then, so at that time, we get around to 2017. Gunnar just got born, or was born May 5th, and then Landen just turned 4 May 24th. But we kind of went from Landen started riding dirt bikes when he was 3 to he got his first race in February of 2017 when he was 3 years old. I had to lie on the entry form because it said the beginner class is 4 to 6, and so I had him on the line with all these other kids and was telling him, get the whole shot, get the whole shot and just have fun, and sure enough, if you go on my Facebook page, there's a video of him just launching out of the gate. You'll know him when you see him. There's a little exhaust stream right behind him, but he beat everybody out of there, at least 30 foot maybe.
But if my memory is correct, I'm pretty sure Landen was racing his big red Honda at Bob when he was before that 3.
Yeah,
but that's how we knew he had confidence to ride that big track.
Yeah, so
he was already racing before that on the little track at Bob.
Yeah, you're right. And then we got him the KTM 50
for that Christmas.
And then that Yep. So Landen was riding dirt bikes, I guess, with no training wheels when he was probably the end of summer when he was 3.
Wow.
Yeah, it had to be in the summer because it was hot when I brought that little PW home.
Goodness.
So yeah, he was driving dirt bikes before then.
He started on training wheels at 2.5.
Yeah, I had him on training wheels on a little Honda 50 when he was 2.5, and he knew the throttle control and the kill switch.
Because I'm pretty sure I was on my way home from work, and he called and said, Mom, I did it without training wheels, or something happened. I was like, you can't be doing that while I'm not there. I always wanted to see it, too. I was like, you can't do anything when I'm not home. I want to see.
But, so we went through some, so when Gunnar got here May 5th, at that time, dirt bike riding and everything kind of slowing down because of some medical issues we were going through with Christina. She's had 3 brain surgeries. The first one coming in.
Landen was 11 months old. It was 2014, April of 2014. So it was about 3 months before they found the tumor. I was a phlebotomist at St. Francis, and my arm would go numb. The first time I was walking in the station, I still remember the floor and everything, and my arm I could not move it. It was the weirdest thing. And I called my lead, and I'm like, hey, Jeremy, I can't. Somebody's going to have to come draw this patient. I can't draw. And he's like, Christina, stop playing. I'm like, I'm not playing. I can't move my arm. I'm right-handed. My right arm goes numb. I can't stick a patient, And so it just went on randomly, but my armpit would sweat, just my right arm, not my left arm. And I had the nerve ending test in my arm done, and that neurologist said that everything's normal, you're going to have to live with it. And I was like, I'm a phlebotomist. I can't have my arm going numb, sticking these patients. And so I want to say that was March.
Yeah.
And then that following next month is when we found the tumor. And so that tumor was pressing so hard. That's what was, my arm was going numb. It was on the left side of my head. So that side affects your right side. Your right of your brain affects your left side. And as you can tell, I get shaky talking about it because it's such
an emotional.
Right.
Couldn't move my arm after surgery, so I was in the hospital for a month. Landon's still a baby. I couldn't go home with him. So that was a struggle. So I fought so hard. They wouldn't let me leave until I could move some motion in my hand. So Landon still diapers, bottles.
Yeah. So we're at Easter Sunday with their mom, and that's when it happened. I think it happened in front of her mom. So that's when her mom scooped her up and they went to the hospital, and that's when they did the scan on her head and seen that. And it's like, hey, we got to get it in there now. And so that's when they did the first surgery.
And my mom's dad died of an aneurysm, which I'm adopted, but her dad died of an aneurysm, so she was scared. Her sister died of an aneurysm and died being 9 months pregnant, lost her and the baby, so she was done. She was like, I'm taking you, I'm not waiting any longer. So, and then after that, it's just been.
After that, she had another surgery done because after that first one, she was having excruciating headaches. She couldn't.
And I didn't have headaches before. I never had. The doctor thinks that tumor was in there since I was born, but getting pregnant with Landon, the hormones they thought made it grow faster. It was a meningioma, atypical grade 2, and so it's a hormone tumor, I believe. And so, I never had headaches before, and so they went back in the second time thinking that there was a tumor left over or something, and they said there was just dry blood. So got no answers there. And every year since that surgery, I've had headaches. And so when I got pregnant with Gunnar, they did a CAT scan, I believe, and to make sure the tumor wasn't growing back with the hormones of being pregnant with Gunnar. And so that's where they found the Chiari malformation, and that causes pressure headaches. So they figured that's what was causing my headaches. And so when we found that scan, that Chiari was also back when the tumor was there, so they didn't even catch it back for so many years. So it's just been, they did that surgery, and I'm just so much worse, and I have to fight for myself. I can't trust any doctors. I was going to a pain doctor, and when Oklahoma passed the medical marijuana, I've been 2 years clean off my pain pills, and so he tried doing injections in my scar, and he kind of I don't know what medicine he put, but he puts you out, but not completely to do it. And he said I was fighting him so hard that he had nurses in there, and I was screaming because of all the trauma, I'm guessing. And so, I'm sorry. I jump all over the place.
It's all right.
But so that's what we were battling for quite some time.
Right.
Just in that whole, timelines from where Landon was a baby to Gunnar being born now. We were in that stretch. We were going through
A lot of health issues, yes.
A lot of health issues with her. And so now we're good. We're good, so to speak. She's got.
I think I have a titanium plate in my head, and so they took my bone. They thought it was cancer. So I'm thinking my headaches are from the metal in my head. I've always have, and so the other day, I was hurting all night, and I was throwing up at 6 o'clock in the morning. It just doesn't make sense. Why is my head like this?
Right.
So, I feel I had notes in my phone. My memory is not good, and so I feel like there's more things popping up, like signs to me, like, hey, you seriously, this could, it's just me. I guess I'm such a I feel like signs hit me and like, hey, don't give up on yourself. This could be what it is.
So she's thinking like the plate, her body's rejecting the plate, which is still causing her headaches.
Right.
So that's where we're at together. That's what we're going through together. We've been dealing with that for quite some time.
But it hasn't stopped us.
But it hasn't stopped us from enjoying what we like to do as a family. Outside, rock crawling, off-roading. It's just, sports. It's just watching the boys do what they love. It's just, we're still fighting, doing what we can, for them.
Right.
I was always told once you have kids, your life is over. You need to live it let your boys have theirs. So your kids have theirs. And so, we still have to have fun as adults too. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I mean. But what I mean is our main focus is primarily on our boys.
Yes.
Making sure they're having fun. When they're having fun, it's just that's all we care about in the world. Seeing their faces light up it doesn't matter what they're doing. So now, jump back to Gunnar was born May 5th. Landen was the 24th. Landen just turned 4. I've got a pile of parts in the shop for the SubZero build. So I started building it with some help with some friends. We started off with the Honda Big Red 250 motor to a Suzuki Samurai case to Toyota axles. Got it all set up, got it powder coated and finished. My dad wanted to completely wire it, so once I got it all put back together, we sent it to his shop for a little while. He got it all wired up and brought it back to the house about 2 weeks before his 4th Christmas, and we're sitting there watching movies, from Santa Claus movies to, heck, we even watched Mortal Kombat in there.
That's always a good Christmas movie.
Yeah, right. He liked the fighting ninjas and stuff like that, and so
He loved Ninja Turtles.
He loved Ninja Turtles. He all that stuff. And luckily, the Mortal Kombat movie back then, it wasn't near as vulgar, and there was some bad language in there and stuff, but Landen's always had I trust Landen more than I trust anybody. He'll flat out tell me he's never really lied to me. He's never really he's cussed one or two times that I know of. Once he knew the good and the bad, he's always been on the right side. He's always been that way.
Atlanta's always been so smart.
He was just so we started. The time my buggy's name was called the Rock Rhino. And so, Landen, you got to come up with your name for your buggy, buddy. What's it going to be? And he said, well, I like the guy with Santa Claus 3. It's got frost hair, so maybe Frost. And then he's like, well, no, I like the ninja that shoots ice out of his hands. Who's that? And I said, that's SubZero. Yeah, let's name it SubZero. And so that's where SubZero stuck. He liked the ninja that had ice, and at the time it was cold outside, so it all kind of seemed to fit.
Right.
All seemed to fit. So when he started, we got the buggy to the house, got it unloaded, and I couldn't wait for Christmas. And so Christina had Gunnar on her hip, and we stuck him in the passenger seat because we use car seats as the seats for those. I figured that if a car can survive, kids can survive in a 65-mile-an-hour car crash, they would be just fine in a car seat in a roll cage. That was my thought on it. There's 7 points of attachments that hold that seat into the roll cage, plus the factory harness, so you're not going anywhere. that was my thought process on it.
Right.
So Landon just started driving since he drove that Ranger UTV Power Wheels until the wheels, were bent up. The caster camber was all crazy. He wore that thing smooth out. I couldn't keep batteries charged up enough. So, it wasn't really that much of a transition. Yeah, it's a lot bigger, but, same pretty much functions. This time you actually have a brake instead of letting off the throttle. But so anyways, he got to where he would follow us around quite a bit in the yard. He knew all, left, right, gas it, not gas it, kind of knew the gist of everything. So we took him to the John Sumner's big meat run that following March. And at that time, he was still 4 years old, and he climbed up the waterfall at night with a huge audience that lit up the whole valley right there. He climbed up it, and got out and threw his hands in the air, and it was a loud cheer, and I'll never forget it. It was something to be there for sure.
Play in the crowd at an early age.
Yes, yep. And then I took him to a mud bog event a few months after that, where when I signed him up for it, the guy looked at me like I was crazy, because here this little kid that he's 5 at the time now, just turned 5, and he's wanting to run his little SubZero through the mud pits, and so they let him do it. So he started driving through the UTV pits, never got stuck, and so the guy's like, well, I'll tell you what, at the end of the show, if he wants to do the big one, he can. It wasn't there wasn't water in it. It was just sloppy, nasty mud. And he went hauling through it and got about 3 foot from the end and just ran out of power. And he's like, Dad, I need more woo pow, I can make it. And
more woo pow, that's awesome.
More woo pow. So just after that, that's when I did some wheeling and dealing and got this Arctic Cat 650 four-wheeler. And I told the guy, I said, look, I don't want the four-wheeler, I just need the motor and the harness. And that's fine. So I pulled everything out that I needed, and he wanted it back, so I gave it back to him. And me and Dad stuck the 650 in the SubZero, and that's what's still in there today. So at that point, Landon, with more power, he was able to follow us a lot better on the trails. He was wheeling right with us. Then we took him to an SRS event right there in Pineville, Missouri, called Rush Springs Off-Road Park. That's where we met like Tim Cameron and Scott Goforth and Travis Skelton and just a whole bunch of nice guys that we're still friends with today, or Facebook friends with and such. And that's when we met all them. And then everybody started talking about, hey, you need to get rid of them tires, or Scott Goforth mentioned, hey, get rid of them tires and get on some Maxxis Rockzillas. He said it'll open up his traction for sure. And so he got us hooked up with Maxxis, and our first contact with them was a lady named Dean Ruth, and she worked with them on the UTV side, and she's not with them anymore, but that was our first contact with Maxxis. Just kind of mention it. No, he wasn't sponsored at all. No, he was just, we were just kind of, hey, here's this little kid that likes to wheel, and that's where we're at. Well, once we got them tires put on there, he was able to crawl up the waterfall a heck of a lot easier. It's amazing what comp tires do, or sticky tires do compared to just regular tires.
Absolutely.
I myself could not believe it. So then we're at that SRS event, and we were talking, and they let Landon run the crowd. They let him kind of do a little lap on one of their little courses, kind of just a little expedition kind of thing. And somebody in the stands said, how's he do, commands? And I said, no, he does great. He listens, everything else. Well, that's when they mentioned, have you ever heard of We Rock? Because we were talking about rock crawling and stuff, and I said, no, I never have. So then that's when I looked it up, and I was like, heck, this, it could be worth a shot. So that's when I believe I contacted you, and it might have been January, February. It might have been a little earlier than that. And you told me, hey, get the window nets, get all the safety equipment that we need, and bring him down to Mexican, Texas, and you'll put him in a class. And that's where we met you and Shelly and the whole We Rock family, so to speak. And it's been a heck of a lot of fun and big, a lot of learning experiences.
It's you've done really well. I know that first phone call that we had, we talked about, I'd said, let's do this, but having coached young kids and seen parents around their sports, I always got really turned off with parents that yelled and screamed at their kids. And I was like, I can remember saying, if you get out of hand, I'm pulling you out, because it's not good for the kids. And you've done a really good job on course with Landen over the years, with him and communicating with him and getting him to do what needs to be done without losing your temper, without yelling and screaming. It's really good to see that. You've done well. You've done well.
Thank you very much. That was always my, I see that happening. I see it all the time. I see it in fact, I see it in baseball all the time. I know exactly what you're talking about. In fact, back when I used to race motocross all the time, I've seen it all the time there.
It is every sport.
It does every sport. And
yes.
The only time I'll get on to him, and it may get out of line, but the only time I will is when he is in the driver's seat and not paying attention. That is the only time that I'll get on to him. If he's not focused on what he's supposed to be doing, because just as well as I do, there's crowds everywhere, there's people everywhere, there's a many list of things that can go wrong.
Right.
That he needs to be fully aware of, and so when we're in the driver's seat, it's all attention or we're not driving.
Right, and that's one reason that I required the kill switches.
Yep.
Is so that if there was that distracted moments or sometimes I wish I had kill switches on the adults. and me with a big board and all the kill switches laid out on there, so I could just, all right, I'm done with that. Clunk. Yeah.
So yes, we ran the. So we did our first course, and I remember you. I can't remember if we were on top. I think our first one was on top of the hill, where Landen was. I believe that was our first run we did on top of the hill up on Mason, and Landen was laid over on its side, and I remember you standing right there. I was so nervous because I wanted everything to go so smooth because we were having so much fun. And I knew one of the rules, I couldn't touch the car. So I don't know if you remember this or not, but Landen had it in drive. He had the buggy in drive. He was laid on its side, but he was so stuck. He was high-centered. And he was winching, steering, and driving all at the same time at 5 years old. I don't know if you remember that or not. You were standing right over it.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And he drove it himself and drove right out.
And that's when Eugene was speaking, and I think Eugene was so shocked whenever he was announcing.
Yep, Eugene was up there.
Yep.
So.
But then right after that run, we went down towards the bottom of the hill, and we ran that course right there, and we finished with a negative score, and that's when we met the Mexico team. They were running the Sportsman C course, I believe, or their Sportsman C, I believe. And Landon put up a better score than they did, and that was his second run ever. And so Axel Stammel come up. I think that's how you say his last name. Axel came up and he said, "What are y'all doing next weekend?" And I was like, "Well, we'll be back at home." And he's like, "Well, I want you guys to come down, and I want y'all to be in the Unlimited Off-Road Expo." And I said, "Okay, I don't know much about it." We're, okay. He's like, "I don't care. Just all you got to do is just get here." And so that's what we did. We ran your We Rock event, and then the very next weekend we went down to the Texas Motor Speedway, and Landon drove the course all around the infield there. The obstacle course they had set up, they had a big teeter-totter he would drive up on. Well, then, next thing I know, we have a whole line of kids.
I think that was the second day.
The second day, we had a whole line of kids. And I asked Landon, I said, "Hey, you want to give them rides?" And they were all cool with it. So here this little kid is out there giving, I think the youngest kid we gave a ride to was like 18 months.
Yeah.
Wow. Landon gave a 5-year-old, gave this little 18-month, baby, so to speak, a ride through the obstacle course.
He was already driving Gunnar at 9 months old around, so.
And, he's used to his little brother riding with him anyways. And
I was just going through my photos, I think it was yesterday, looking at that speedway because we went to the monster truck yesterday. He had the video, and he said I would ask him if they wanted to go slow or fast, and that video, remember, he said he wobbled his head.
Yeah, there's a video on Christina's, I think it's her page or my page, but Landon was explaining it. I mean, that way, if, you want to go back and watch it or whatever, that's why I'd say that.
Right.
But there's a video, and Landon would ask the kids when he'd get out on the course, he said, "Hey," they have like a little rock garden set up and stuff, and Landon would ask them, "You want to go fast, you want to go slow?" And the kid that wanted to go fast, he would pin it across the rocks and then stop on the other side. And he said they'd be like a bobblehead in there. They would bobblehead. So yeah, he did all that. Well, just in front of that, or just to the side, was the Maxis trailer. So that's when I want to say it was Robbie Warren with Maxis was taking pictures and sending it back to whoever. Because just after that's when we got hooked up with Maxis after that event.
Excellent.
Because we were running our plans were to run the We Rock events. In fact, we went to Pennsylvania with you guys that year, went to Tennessee, and then went to Farmington. And we've been with you guys ever since 2019, the start of it,
right,
for us. And so, we've just had one experience after the other. I mean, last year, we got to go to Vegas and see you guys for the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame.
Well, before that, though, we felt like Landon was ready to get I don't know how you would put it, upgrade like his car. He's ready to move up, and so you made the new Buggy Federation.
Well, yeah, that's so.
And so his first event was going to last year. So
Gunnar, riding around with Landon all the time, we competed in 19, we competed in 20, and then I feel like we've changed the car so much with, rear disconnects and different brake setups, and, tried to change so much on SubZero without, completely tearing it all down and building a brand new one. And I didn't want to do that because I wanted to give that one to Gunnar so he can learn. And so that's when Dad mentioned, "Hey, let's use a Harley motor for the new one." And so I got to talking to some transmission guys, and they're like, we ran all the numbers on ratios and RPM ranges for torque converters and everything, so to speak. And they're like, "Yeah, it's doable." And so that's when Thunderation started. Was in 2020. Late of 2020, and I'd tried to make it happen for a Mason, Texas event in 21, but I just didn't have all the parts. It wasn't done yet. I was still waiting on a few things. And so Glencoe last year was when we got to unveil it.
One of the things I'll say is thank you for putting exhaust on it.
You're definitely welcome. Yeah. It was overpowering, without a doubt.
Yes.
Without a doubt. It was obnoxious. That's the only way I can put that word. It was so loud. But it just, I don't know.
And my mom's opinion with it, Harleys, they're being worked on either on a motorcycle or the rock crawler. Either way, they're being worked on all the time.
Hardly ever running. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I like to give Harley people trouble. So Wyatt and I had a motorcycle. It was a victory, but yeah.
It just, I don't know. I will never own a Harley motorcycle. I won't.
Right now, a motor.
Well, yeah, but it's different. But it ain't different, but it is different. I will never buy a motorcycle Harley. Never. Every time he runs that thing, it's just kind of got me on edge. Just kind of like, oh, please work. But I'm firmly believe now that after all the trouble we've had from, because it wasn't designed for this, obviously.
Right.
But the owners of the previous bike, we don't know what they did to it. It was just a whole list of things. But now, I believe we firmly got it lined out. I believe we do. And by fact, Dad's always been my motor guy, always has been, regarding motorcycles or four-wheelers or whatever. So Dad's got it lined out now, without a doubt. In fact, I think it proved itself last weekend at the We Rock event. I was so surprised I didn't have to turn one wrench on it.
Well,
other than Friday night, somebody noticed, Landon's like, hey, Dad, the throttle's sticking. And I'm like, what do you mean? And we practiced all right here in the house that week, like that Tuesday and Wednesday. We practiced right here just on the flat grass. Because we got it running again, and we did a couple changes. So we set up some courses just right here in the yard. So he needs to,
rear steer
and just go over it, basically. And so when that throttle cable frayed, I sent me into a big panic. And luckily we were able to get it repaired, and we can line up for course 1.
Yep.
And we were at Gunnar's T-ball game while you had to run back and get the
yeah.
buggy.
So we unloaded that. We came up that Friday. We drove up with my buddy Stetson up there to your trailer. Well, as soon as we got back to the race trailer, that's when Landon mentioned it to me. He's like, Dad, my throttle's sticking. And that's so. Of course, me being me, I'm thinking, okay, it's not a big deal. We can just go pick it up. And so Gunnar had a T-ball game at that very same exact time, so we shot over there for it, and it was luckily right there in Glencoe. Well, we're watching this T-ball game. I'm like still panicking. I'm like, nope, I've got to leave, guys. I've got to go home, get the trailer, and get that thing back. I gotta fix it. So that's what we were doing Friday night.
It's phenomenal all weekend.
But yes, it ran great all weekend. Didn't have one hiccup out of it. I didn't have to turn a wrench Saturday or Sunday.
We haven't just loaded it off the trailer, and we're good.
So now it's solid. I'm hoping.
Great. So let's talk about the Hall of Fame. Landon was nominated as one of the finalists for an Impact Award, which is typically about young and coming people that influence the off-road motorsports, and absolutely he's the youngest that's been nominated for one of those positions in rock sports. But that was really good. I think hopefully that's good for the youth sports, and hopefully we see you guys back involved with the Hall of Fame.
That would be.
It was a great first experience. It was.
In fact, when I got that text message from Barbara Rainey, I think it was Barbara that reached out to me first. In fact, I'm 99% sure it was.
You were.
Yes.
So I was I thought it was a scam. She sent me a Facebook message on Messenger, and Messenger or text message, either one. But I thought it was a scam. Like I didn't know how to take it. Like I was so shocked, so to speak. And so finally I called and talked to her on the phone, and then it was like, wow, okay, this is a flat out amazing. Like it's just not the rock crawling side of things, but I mean it's the rock crawling. I mean it's without a doubt rock crawling stuff, but it's what was so amazing to me is people take notice in the stuff that we do as a family, so to speak. Like we were in. I'm going to go off topic just for a second with that.
Absolutely.
We were at a Walmart one time, and right around Christmas, of course, we walk in, and Landen mentioned to me, seeing this tree with all the names on it. Dad, what's that right there? And I said, well, son, that's a angel Christmas tree. Well, what are they doing with their names on it? I said, well, people go up, pick a name, and go get that kid an item, and give it back to Walmart, and that's how they get their gifts. Well, why do they do that? Well, they do that because sometimes there could be foster kids, they could be families that can't get their kids anything for Christmas. It could be a variable of things. And they said, well, I want to do that. Well, how can we help? And here this little, I think he was 6 at the time. And was he 5 or 6? Because we've done it 3 years now. And he just turned 9, so he had to be 5 or 6. 5 going on 6 or something. And so here's this little kid is asking to help. And, well, all right, if you want to do something like that. And, we got a pretty good following on Facebook and stuff. So I reached out to Shelly Martin with Two Moms Campground and asked her to get us on the Disney list for events, and if they had a room for an event. So that's when the SubZero toy drive in December came about.
Okay.
And each year has just
year has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. The first year we didn't know what to expect, so we had a bunch of.
In the first year we did it to Landen School. The school already did a tree because since it was our first year to do it, so the school already had the tree and the organization. So we had people word of mouth, and so we wrapped all the presents, organized them all. Wyatt, Christian, Landen all went and delivered the presents, and Christian gave them a family a free ham. And so the second year we did all the toys that donated to the Disney children right there in Disney, since that's where we held the event. And the third year we
gave it back to Disney as well.
And so I think we might change it up again another.
So this year, I've been talking. I mentioned it to Timmy early, right about early this year, I believe. I mentioned it to Timmy about hosting it out here at the Cedar Canyon Ranch, hosting the toy drive out there this year, and giving all the toys back to local towns and kids that need them. So we're going to do it again this year. It's just we're changing the location.
But Landen got to see and experience.
So yes, by us going and dropping off the presents, Landen would carry them up to the door and hand them to the kids or the adults, whoever entered the door. Landen would say, "Here you guys go. This is from our toy drive." And so Landen got to experience exactly what he wanted to do by helping out.
That's awesome, and to do that at such a young age.
That was his vision. That's exactly what he wanted. When he looked at me and said, "Dad, how can we help?" Then let's do it. That was what he wanted to do. That was strictly on him.
And I absolutely loved it. I was in foster care, and so I was pretty proud of Landen for
wanting to go down that route.
Right.
Wanting to help out. And so so that's what Barbara explained to me on the phone. She's like, it's not just rock crawling and stuff. It's just what you guys are doing as a family that help other families, that help, other kids. And being so young, doing this kind of thing, it opens up, other families to maybe get their kids involved as well.
I just don't like to put a limit on my kids. They know. Or, I don't want to put that fear in them. and I just let them do what they. And so I feel like kids are able to do what they can. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this part.
No, I understand. It's great, and that's one of the things that I love about the Hall of Fame is that truly anybody that's in the Hall of Fame is there not only for what they've done on the course, whether they've won a lot or in business that they've been a successful business person in off-road, whether the media, whatever, but it's what they've provided the off-road community as well. You could be the winningest person, but if you don't give back to the community in some way, it's really hard to get past the voting because it's not necessarily how great a person you are, but what you get. It's giving back.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a very important part of it.
Yes.
So yeah, I really think that you guys come from a place that is heart driven, and it's a great story. It really is.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, Rich.
I noticed that when we were swimming at the little reservoir there in Pawnee, and Gunnar of course is your Evel Knievel, Daredevil, Super Dave, whatever you want to call him, all wrapped into one. He's kind of like react first. Landon's always, he's more calculating, from what I can tell. Gunnar jumping off, and then where'd he go? Jumping off the pier, and we're waiting for him to come back up, and it's the water's fairly deep right there, and he'd come up with rocks or mud or something like that from the bottom, and it was like he just swam down to the bottom, grabbed whatever he could, and came back up. It's amazing, where he is going, and where the stories that you tell about him trail riding as well. The two kids, even though they are so much alike because of the upbringing, they are so different.
Yeah, they are.
Yes, without a doubt.
So you're definitely going to have your hands full as they grow older. That's for sure.
Yes, for sure. In fact, I was going to let Gunnar. Now, Landon started competing, 5 going on 6. Well, Gunnar just turned 5, turned 5 in May. So he's a year behind, but yet he's already that much further than where, because he's rode with the brother the entire time. He's seen how things go. I mean, he knows how to do it, but he just don't quite have the lead in his butt yet to pull the disconnect back, lock the brakes up, spin it around. He don't have that.
Right.
On course setups. But yes, we do practice at the house, and I was gonna let him go, but just not yet.
Gunnar is full throttle, and he's got to calm down a little bit. So
Gunnar, if he gets frustrated, he's not scared to throw the hammer back on it.
And him talking in the third person is absolutely it cracks me up.
Yeah, so we got those headsets, and we were at that Twin Mountains down there. We went with 2 of our buddies, Roy, Scooter, and Brad, and Scooter's showing around this place at Twin Mountains. Well, Christina's got a headset on, I've got one, and Landen and Gunnar, they're both in their own buggies driving. Well, Brad's leading the way, Roy's behind him. Well, Landon's behind Roy, and Gunnar's behind Landon, and we're at the tail end. And we're just tootling along, and, it's you can connect all 4 together, so we're in there riding, and Gunnar, you need to go left. Silly Gunnar. Like he's just silly Gunnar. Everything he just talked to himself in third person all the time, like, silly Gunnar. here we are trail riding, and then you can hear him in there just singing and just doing his own thing, and it was really, really exciting. Just we love.
That was our first time to have all of us headsets. It's usually just Wyatt, and we had two. It's
usually just me and Landen linked up, and then Gunnar's trapped in the middle. Well, when we got the other set, then we could link them all together, and then it was that much
and
much
Mom
more
was
fun.
crying because then I just heard everything they were saying, and I'm just bawling and mine off.
I could just see in the future, Gunnar at NASCAR gets out of the car and the microphone gets handed to him, and the reporter asks, "Well, tell us about your race." Well, you see, Gunnar came into turn 1, and then Gunnar passed the field, and here I am, Gunnar, talking to you.
Yep, he does that a lot.
That's so cute. That's awesome.
A lot, but we have Tennessee coming up in a few weeks. We were kicking the idea of actually letting Gunnar run that one.
Okay.
Well, and we rented an Airbnb this time, a cabin. So Mom and Dad's going to be able to go, and hopefully his dad. And so we'll have everything. So Mom won't be able to miss Gunnar if he does run. So that was a big factor because prices of fuel is so crazy right now.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm doing all I can to for sure make the event. I'm just hoping everything goes smooth from here to July. Here to that event for sure.
Well, excellent. And hopefully we'll see you guys in New Mexico as well for nationals. And,
yes, we will for sure.
Over the years, as the kids grow up, we'll expect to see them on the podiums, as they move up in the classes and ranks, and never worry about what other people are saying. Landen deserves to run in any of the classes that his buggy fits in. So it's, I absolutely see no problem with that. Running in the Sportsman A. If guys don't like that they're running against a buggy that's smaller than them, they can build a smaller buggy.
That's very true. We're not that far shorter than anybody else.
No, absolutely not.
In fact, I'm actually wanting to lengthen it up just a little bit, but just to kind of give him that more vertical grab.
Right.
So our first time in Texas, that first event, Rich, was Landen in his own class because they protested him? Or
no.
Was he?
We designed the kids' buggies to be so the kids could compete against themselves. It really looked like, looking at the internet and the interest of other parents wanting to build stuff for their kids, that was going to take off, and that was going to go in that direction where we could get kids started and competing at their own level. Yeah. And that just never really came to fruition. We had Jax come out and race on the West Coast and then at Nationals, but they've moved on and are doing other things now. And we really hope that there'll be more kids that will follow your guys' footsteps and bring that together. Because I really think that, while Landen he's got the right mentality to compete against the adults, I don't know if that's something that a lot of kids could do.
Yeah.
Landen's kind of an old soul that way. And he understands. It's like the whole thing with the gift giving, and the angel gifts. While Landen's able to do it, I don't think that there's a lot of kids out there that could do the same thing. And so I'd really like to have that stepping stone for the kids, because before we always said it would be 12 years old. And that's where I felt kids were, emotionally and physically ready to drive and where they could have the car control, they could, strong enough to hold the helmets, not being, fearful of, what happens after a rollover, that kind of thing. And, Landon's been through all that already, and he's done very well. I mean, he doesn't fear the rollovers. He got right back up on the horse, you might say, and went after it after being in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's, I allowed for him to move up and run in that Sportsman A because I felt he was ready to do that emotionally. And that you, Wyatt, as the dad and the spotter, were there as well.
Right.
So that's not to dissuade people from bringing their kids out and competing in the kids' classes. I think that's a great place for them to start. And
Absolutely.
even if it means just running like an exhibition and running by themselves, I think that's it's almost like, not counting the goals or, or runs in t-ball or, in soccer, that kind of thing. And, give the kids a chance to compete and get used to being in a competitive field before making them fear loss, losing and getting upset because of it. So that's one of the things, I'd like to see more people get involved with. And, you guys were on the forefront of that and of making that history of being the youngest ones out there and the first out and doing a great job at it.
Okay. Thank you.
That's what just made me nervous as parents were just going to throw their kids in it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, here we go. And that was what made me nervous is if the kids actually was comfortable in their driving whatever their what machine they had, and they were comfortable,
Right.
So I just didn't want dad shoving kids in there and like, here you go, So
No, every time.
nobody really has.
No, that's what Rich would control. Rich would be like, hey, no, we're not going to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
what he was
Every parent that has a young child out there competing, and, we have a couple of them, or that have come in and competed, and there's still some this year that are competing that are, in full-size buggies that are built so that they can control everything. Those kids and the parents I talk to ahead of time to make sure that, that they understand how this is going to work, because I don't want kids to be thrown to the wolves or, proverbial thrown in the fire, you might say. I want them to enjoy the sport. I want them to grow up and appreciate the opportunity they had and not regret it. So, that's something I'm really, concerned about. So, yeah.
You say in great words. Thank you.
Yeah.
No worries. So I take it the rock crawling, the family, it's still going to continue, and we really appreciate you guys being out there and being such great examples.
Thank you. Yes, that's my plan. As long as they're having fun and wanting to wheel, and as long as they're having fun, that's my main goal. In fact, a lot of people can see it this last weekend. In fact, on our SubZero racing page, I posted a picture of landing on C1. In fact, I was backing through a course, and he had his lips kind of duck-lipped, I guess, so to speak, like he was just thinking and he was in the zone. And I put a caption this picture on there. Someone took that picture, but it was just him so calm and relaxed and having so much fun.
Wyatt and I seen a change in him last weekend.
Last week I seen a change in him. It was almost just night and day different. It was Tuesday before the rock crawling weekend. We were out there practicing in the yard, and just the glow, I don't know how to explain it. It was just like somebody else overnight. It was a whole different kid. It's so weird, but it he was able to just no problem, just think clearly, grab his, transfer case shifter, throw it the rear end in neutral, spin the front end around. Like he was getting all that, but he was having so much fun. It was just like a switch went on. It just.
He had that drive I seen in it.
Yeah, he had that drive last weekend.
That he wanted it, like.
Right.
It's hard to
That he
explain.
was there. He wanted it, and so when
we can explain it.
So how'd you feel? Were you ready to go, or?
Yeah, I was ready to go.
You was ready to go?
Yeah.
Lay the smack down on the adults.
Rich said, way to smack down on the old adult.
We were trying, too.
Yep, you sure did, and you pulled off a perfect course.
Yep, we got our. You gave your
The final run.
Yep, your perfect score went to. You told Grandpa about it too, didn't you?
0 times, 0 backups, and 0 rear steer.
Excellent.
Roll your gates and.
Yep, that was our. So our goal Saturday.
What was your goal at the beginning of before your competition? What was your goal for you and Dad?
To finish all courses without timing out.
And you did that too, huh?
Yep.
Great. That's the way to do it. Set those goals.
Yep, that was our goal. And then Sunday, with the point spread so close, we decided, since we were on gate up first for the gates, we decided to use no rear steer, and finish all the courses. And we did just that, didn't we, Landon?
Yeah. 0 rear steer on all the courses.
Excellent.
And that's what the drivers, I think, were saying, that you pushed the drivers to do what they didn't think they could do. They didn't think they could do the courses without rear steer, and they were able to do it too. So you're pushing the drivers too to.
Yeah, we heard a lot of drivers, a lot of people saying that we were pushing them to do better because we were on top of it.
Not do better, but to push them.
Yeah, we were pushing them. So.
Yep. Excellent. Well, that's great. That's the way the sport should be, and to be doing it at such a young age is phenomenal. I want to say thank you so much for spending the time on a Sunday when you have so much to do around the house. And now that baseball season's over and you don't have to go rock crawling for a couple of weeks, at least competitively. So,
yep.
Thank you for spending the time. I'll let everybody know that this was actually our second take, because the first take I didn't hit the record button, and we talked for about an hour and 10 minutes until I realized that we had not recorded. So we had to start over, and now we've done another hour and 44 minutes at this point.
Wow.
Of course, we'll edit it down a little bit, but I want to say thank you so much for spending the time, and also for you guys coming into our family. Our We Rock family has meant so much to us.
Well, Rich, we wouldn't be there.
Thank you for giving Landon the chance to come and start this journey. It's been such a blessing for us, and we love it.
Yes, thank you very much for allowing us to
And we love
come
our
into our
lives.
lives.
Yep.
Like you saying, bring him down to Texas, and that's where it all started.
Yep.
So
And,
thank you very much.
No worries. And then we're looking forward to seeing Gunnar on the courses as well.
Yes.
Yep, Gunner's coming.
Gunner's going to do Tennessee, because Tennessee is one of our favorites. It's a night show, and I think it'll be great for Gunner.
Lots of kids out there. Yes, Landon. Thank you. You're welcome. All righty. You guys have a great day, and we'll definitely see you in Tennessee.
All right, sounds good. We'll see you guys soon. Thank you, Rich and Shelley, for everything again, and look forward to the future.
Okay.
We'll be here.
Excellent. Rock on.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Bye-bye. Well, that's another episode of Conversations with Big Rich. I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you could do us a favor and leave us a review on any podcast service that you happen to be listening on, or send us an email or a text message or a Facebook message, and let me know any ideas that you have, or if there's anybody that you have that you think would be a great guest please forward the contact information to me so that we can try to get them on. And always remember, live life to the fullest. Enjoying life is a must. Follow your dreams and live life with all the gusto you can. Thank you.